Good morning, guys. So the good news about today's lesson is it's actually a 2-day lesson. So if you don't finish today, you still have time tomorrow to work on this lesson. Make sure that you meet the specific due date time so that it doesn't get counted as late. If you haven't handed in the lesson from yesterday yet, if you're 1 day behind, which I know there's a couple people who are, I would recommend starting with the lesson from yesterday first, because this lesson builds on lesson 15. This is lesson 16, it builds on lesson 15. So go back and do lesson 15 before you complete today's lesson. Now let's get to the learning target. So I will be able to explain 3 different philosophies of wealth that became popular during industrialization. Laissez-faire business, this word is laissez-faire, the gospel of wealth, and social Darwinism. So obviously we are not yet familiar with these 3 terms. You guys will study these 3 terms through the activity you're going to do today. I'm not going to tell you what they mean. So in blue, those are our brand new terms. We've also got this word philosophy that we need to be familiar with in order to really understand the learning target. We can break philosophy, and I'm going to draw an arrow like this. So yeah, we can break philosophy into 2 parts. The first part is philo. Philo is actually a Greek word that means love. Inside philosophy, we'll also find the word sophos. This is another Greek word that means knowledge. Knowledge. So if we put the different parts of the word philosophy together, what we get is love of knowledge. Literally, philosophies mean love of knowledge. But when we translate it into English, what we mean when we say philosophy is actually just a way of thinking. So today you're going to study 3 ways of thinking, 3 philosophies, 3 ways of thinking about wealth during industrialization. So let's make one note here. We know that during industrialization, lots and lots of factories are being built. From yesterday's lesson, you know that there's a big gap between the factory owners. I'm just going to tilt my camera down a little bit so you guys can see. From our lesson from yesterday, you guys know that there's a big gap between the factory owners and the factory workers. Factory owners, they're living super nice lives, very comfortable. It's the first time in America where you've got multiple millionaires, billionaires. You've got factory owners who are living very, very nice lives. And you've got factory workers whose experiences living in the city are not always super pleasant. We've been studying the experience of many factory workers in cities before we went on break. So think about working conditions, think about living conditions in New York City. That's the type of life that workers are living. On the opposite side, you have factory owners who are incredibly wealthy. So during industrialization, during this time period, when there's a huge gap between the very wealthy and the very poor, 3 different ways of thinking about wealth come around. And those three ways of thinking are laissez-faire business, gospel of wealth, social Darwinism. So your job in today's activity is to figure out how these different ways of thinking are different and how they're similar. So you're going to do that through an activity that takes 2 days. Now I'm going to pause while I screen share. So at this point, you should have navigated to your daily packet for today. On the front page of your daily packet, you will see you're ready to learn. You should have completed that before you began this video. If you want to pause the video now, just go back and complete your RTL. I recommend doing so. After you've done your RTL, if you scroll to the second page, you'll find your Economic Philosophies graphic organizer. This is where you are recording your responses for the day. So under your Economic Philosophies graphic organizer, you'll notice at the top that there are different characteristics. There are 9 characteristics. The primary sources you're going to read today are on the 3rd page. Here's what you need to do. After you've read one primary source, you're going to go back up to the top of your Economic Philosophies graphic organizer and find which characteristic matches with document A, which is laissez-faire. So let's say after reading document A, laissez-faire, I'm looking at my characteristics and I decide that characteristic E and G and H match with laissez-faire, document A. Those are not correct. I'm just using it as an example. In that second column, I'm going to write the specific characteristic that I think document A matches up with. I'm just going to write the letter. So E, I, G. There should be 3 characteristics per philosophy. After I have properly matched up the characteristic with the philosophy, in the 3rd column, I'm going to provide a summary of the philosophy. Your summary should be at least 3 sentences long, 3 to 4 sentences. Okay, so in your own words, you will summarize the gist of each philosophy. There are 3 philosophies, 3 ways of thinking about wealth, about money. There's laissez-faire business, social Darwinism, and gospel of wealth. The documents for all 3 philosophies can be found on the 3rd page, where it says Economic Philosophies document. You've got document A, document B, document C. Remember that you have 2 days to complete this lesson. When you are finished, and this is actually going to be tomorrow, but when you are finished, you need to make sure to complete the exit ticket. The exit ticket can be found at the bottom of your Economic Philosophies graphic organizer. You cannot complete the exit ticket until you've completed the entire graphic organizer. Please, please, please come to office hours if you're struggling or if you just want to touch base. Thanks, guys.